link each time and plug it directly into the address line on Chrome, and that way it seems to work.
Yeah. So I looked, or I was looking before we that access point is an IP65 rated waterproof enclosure,
Okay.
which that's the lowest rating, which basically means it's dust tight and it's protected against water projected from a nozzle. So
it's not good down to 15 meters underwater or anything like that.
but it's probably all right in like a decent amount of rain. The one that I think the one that most people really want are like the IP67s. Because those are the ones that can be submerged for like 30 minutes. And the IP68s just seem like they can be submerged forever.
I don't know what you'd want to submerge them forever for.
No, I think the 66s, the IP66 and the IP67s are the ones that you really want to look for, but the 65 will give you some protection.
How cheap are you is the question. There we go, 40 bucks. Wow.
40 bucks.
Well, it says price drop there, so apparently they've recently.
That probably means something better has come along.
Oh yeah, there's definitely better. This is definitely the bottom of the land, the bottom of the heap right here. But it works. They got plenty of them. The ratings are good. Why since they didn't make it, huh?
No, not yet. and we lost
Ray also.
lost Ray too.
Ray was loosely coupled anyway. Okay, it's time. It's torture time. Yeah. So we had a perturbation this week in the numbers, the COVID-19 numbers. Usually when you see numbers change this rapidly, you wonder a little bit, but it looks like in Florida, Texas, and California, they had a little bump and coming back down. I noticed the peak there was a little inordinately high for some reason, but it looks like they're leveling out for the states, and the same thing for all states. All states are coming back up. They had a little bump, and see if it levels out. See if that levels out. And books. Never Split the Difference is, we recommended that one. My brothers recommended a book called The Man Called Intrepid. Yeah, the scale says it's probably a movie. I think it's where 007 came from. But it's,
007 came from Ian Fleming.
I know, but he derived that from a spy, a real spy. It's a knockoff from a real spy. And
Okay. Well, that must be back in the 40s then, because Ian Fleming was writing primarily in the 50s and the early 60s.
well, this was from the British spies. The British spying started pre-World War One, and this particular service, and they spread their service to the U.S. The same service, and nobody ever found out about it until 1962, and then it became generally known about in like 1992, when it became generally known that there was this sort of spy service out there. So the facts, they didn't even let it out, and they suppressed as much as they could the Freedom from Information Act for the release of information about this. So eventually they spilled their guts about it. So it's pretty cool. Now this is about Churchill, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and all the crap that was going on. And the war started 2 years before the war started, and stuff you really don't want to know about, particularly if you like Franklin Delano Roosevelt. There's some lying, cheating rascals out there. Let me tell you, there was some whoppers being told back in those days.
So what's the book?
Never Split the Difference.
Oh, this is in, I thought you said that your brother recommended something else.
Oh, well, it's actually the Ian Fleming thing this is related to that other book, in that this one talks about the original spy, and the other book is also about this same spy. This is a general book, Never Split the Difference. That's true. That's right. I'm getting them confused. Never Split the Difference is how to negotiate with a terrorist or your wife or whatever. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes. I get confused about it. So yeah, the Intrepid is I've read part of it, and it's text only, so I'm having trouble. I'm having to learn how to use Kindle on the Android. Has anyone ever used Kindle on the Android?
I do it all the time.
You do?
Yep.
What's wrong with you?
I just download the Kindle app for Android. Amazon has a Kindle app for every operating system I can think of. And I don't know if they go back as far as Atari, but they certainly cover Linux, Windows, OS 10, Android, iOS, all of those they cover.
To turn it on, you have to go into settings and turn that setting on for it to read to you. Oh, I'm talking about using the audio function.
Oh, no, I don't do audio,
Yeah.
but I know it's available.
Yeah. Yep.
Let me,
No, I actually still have a Sony ebook reader that I use. This thing's great. Sony stopped making them now.
I was gonna say, that gotta be 15 years old, right?
That one's not that old. I had one of the original ones that Sony had. It probably was 15, maybe 20 years old. Its battery finally died, and it just wasn't worth replacing. Vicente's here. Let's let Vicente in. Better. Little Windex. Paper towel.
Oh, Vincente,
Vicente.
Vicente, rather, not Vincente.
Hello,
Okay.
hello, hello.
Hello.
The news this week, we had that chart comparing energy costs per mile for electric and gas vehicles, and we determined that the electric vehicle generally they should be cheaper than the gasoline fuel vehicles, even at $2 a gallon. It still should be somewhat cheaper, but much closer than it was a couple of years ago, huh? Here's some more information. What is the cost per mile for electric vehicle? This is 540 bucks per year for electric, and 1,400 bucks per year at $3.60 gas price. So we cut that almost in half. So we're talking about 700 versus 540.
Uh-huh.
I had a siding salesman visit me this week, and he had a Volt, V-O-L-T.
Yep.
He was about 6 foot long. It's wonderful. He's a Chevy bigot, I think. And, but he was very happy, no problems. Was working up to his 100,000 miles. They no longer make the Volt, V-O-L-T, discontinued 2 years ago. They replaced it with the Bolt, the B-O-L-T, Bolt, and it's all electric. And another listing for cost of electric cars versus conventional. Gail has a Altima, and she gets everyday driving 29 miles per gallon. She's got the CDT, so that's a full size at 29 miles per gallon. That's pretty good. Anything else? There's another one in the news. They're talking about, again, the replacement batteries, the super capacitor batteries. In the news section, there's an article on it. And what they're saying is they can create a AA size supercapacitor, but it would be like a 5 farad capacitor. I think farad. The disadvantage and the advantage of the supercapacitors is they're just supercapacitors. You read the voltage on it, and that's going to be the charge. Okay, full voltage is full charge, and they'll go to 0 volts, and they don't care if you go to 0. Which, if you take a lithium battery and you go to 0 volts on it, it's pretty much useless. It's done. Yeah. So the downside of the supercapacitors is the power density is way low, so you're not going to get a lot of power. They said you can have a AA size supercapacitor, but that you'll have a few minutes of battery life out of it. They do have some larger ones, and they're farads, and the ones that are available now are 3 volt batteries, but they have a power density problem.
And then she's the girl that plays.
Hey,
Yeah.
mute yourself.
You're probably on mute.
Hey,
I can't mute him. I don't have him there.
please don't mute me.
Okay.
Last time I was like, okay, I might as well be watching a recording.
Break him remotely. Break the card.
I have the whole family here. I'm just telling them to be quiet, please.
Oh,
I'm drunk.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
luck
not
with
drunk.
that. Okay, so anyhow, the supercapacitor, there's a link. If you go to the news link on the website, I'll probably blow up the internet. The somewhere here, club calendar, meeting announcement. Oh, here, technology news for the week. That direct link, you'll see the supercapacitor article, and there are tons of them out there. Like I said, I'm suicidal about battery groups right now. And that was it for the news. Ray, you been working on anything except your suntan?
Not much on working on suntan here. It was more of a working travel in order to get here, and it's going to be working, like hitting customer on the way back. So I get to spend 3 days at the beach. Okay, near the beach, but we're not really going to the beach because it's raining like stupid here today.
Be nice tomorrow.
I would rather be back home unloading styrofoam. They're getting ready to redo my roof at the building back in Middletown. I'm all excited about that.
The new building?
The one that's up front at Hook Drive, it's 6,000 square feet. And we're just rebuilding it. Possibly the other small company is going to move in there. It's called From the Circle. And so I've got a question for you guys. I also bought the Middletown Journal building. Okay?
Really?
Yes, I did.
Hopefully,
Really?
we don't have confirmation of any of that, Ray.
Why? What's up with that, Leroy? You got something against that?
No, not at all. I just know that several people have owned that building in.
There we have our robot club.
I wanted to. I'm tired.
So I am the man, and I am not going to lose that building. It's mine. Unless somebody comes up with $32,000 worth of tax money that in order to pay off his taxes. No, that is going to be my building. And I'm going to be working with the city of Middletown to put a couple different things in there, including
I'm gonna get a large
a
tea,
reception
light
hall, maybe an antique store, a indoor skating park, and a makerspace.
Okay.
So with a makerspace, we have a whole bunch of woodworking
and,
tools, and we have
another
a
large,
whole bunch of
safety.
electronics tools,
No ice.
and I'm going to need somebody to man the place on a regular basis. And Leroy is kind of like, ha, yeah,
Anybody else?
sounds like a good job for Leroy. Go down there, hang out for free.
No.
I want an ice cream.
We have ice cream in the room.
Okay, I'll have ice cream.
All right, that's all. All right, let's go for it. Thank you.
That's all you, right, Leroy? You
Uh,
gonna hang out there? He's like, I don't think so.
I don't know. I might go and hang out there.
You should tell me ice cream.
Well,
You can turn off your video, Leroy, on that bottom left.
Turn off
It
my
is-
video.
Yeah, you don't want to be here right now.
Oh,
it is highly likely that we'll put a laser over there or two.
Oh, in the makerspace.
In the makerspace. I'm not sure if we'll put a saw stop over there, but we'll have a table saw of some kind over there. And a bunch
weren't
of
they
other-
trying to make that into apartments or something at one point?
Yes, they were, and he failed miserably
Yes.
because he didn't understand the state law for fire escapes. So, as a business, you know, there's a certain amount of things that need to be done, but also I don't think that he had proper funding.
We'll throw that out the window.
Yeah. So if he didn't have proper funding, so for me, I've been working with the city, and I
I
That's
had it
what-
going up.
good grief.
You turned it off.
Okay, so I've been working with the city, and we've got a grant for a certain amount of money to go in there and do repairs and renovations. So the city is going to match 50% of whatever I put into the building for renovations. So if I put in 100,000, they're going to put in 50,000, and they'll match up to $2 million. So I don't have 2 million, but I will be renovating that building as much as I can. The part of that is like the stipulation says that the building has to be used as a business incubator, which I wanted to do anyway, and the city has to manage it, which I wanted somebody else to manage it anyway. So this is going to be a win-win for me. The only thing is I want to make sure that whoever's in the makerspace isn't down there hurting themselves or Jim. I don't want to make sure they're not down there hurting themselves or selling drugs. And I think Jim's just telling me that I'm crazy. So, yeah.
Mad raccoon.
624. It was
All right.
2 cheese and a large fry.
That is just too much. You got to send me the link to the bad raccoon. Crazy.
Yeah, I had a
Raccoon.
large sweet tea, light ice, a large sweet tea, no ice, and
All right.
a large fry.
So
You
I'm sorry, you guys probably hear my wife in the background ordering food. And,
ordering food.
Sorry.
I'm hungry.
That will be our video test screen henceforth.
Are you good?
Crazy raccoon.
Crazy raccoon.
Electrically, what else have I been into? I had to get a new electrical panel for my building, but that's about it. That and rebuilding lasers. I overheard Al, he was talking about, I thought he said Ubiquity access points, and then you guys got into talking about cameras.
No, I was talking about Ubiquity access points.
I don't know if you knew, but Mr. Jones was kind enough to help me with setting up my Ubiquity systems. And now that I've owned and been operating all of my Ubiquity supplies, I've gotten pretty good at it. So adopting, using your controller and adopting different components into the Ubiquity system. Otherwise, when it first boots up, it has address 20, 192.168.1.20. After it has the .20 address, then you give it a different IP address and then introduce the next item. You access address 20 again, give it a new address, and then put them each onto your network. You just have to remember that its default address is one that you have to be on the same network.
Well, Ray, I hate to burst your balloon, but I'm about 20 miles down the road from that.
Oh, great.
So the problem was not setting up Ubiquity. That's all done. The problem was that when I turn on 2 access points, a couple of wireless devices, one of them a camera and one of them a Raspberry Pi, go offline all of a sudden. So somehow or another, I don't know if they're being overpowered or whatever the problem was. I don't think it's peculiar to Ubiquity. I think it is, it's actually Unify as a product line. The problem is, I think one of overpowering the particular cameras in question. And I don't know if anybody's ever run into that before. Jim was saying he had some problems with some of his cameras.
Are you using an individual PoE injector, or are you using a PoE switch?
I'm using a PoE switch, but that, we're, as I say, we're 20 miles down the road from that. Basically, the problem is not the ubiquity devices. The problem is that I may be just overpowering the wireless network, and the cameras are misbehaving because of that.
When you said overpower, I directly related that to voltage, and that's where the PoE injector, like the individual units, they'll ramp up and they'll tell each item, like the camera or the access point, they'll tell the PoE injector how much voltage or when to stop increasing the voltage for line loss and so forth. And the PoE switch, if you don't have enough total wattage available from a PoE switch, it won't be able to handle it either. And then your other items, your items such as your camera will drop out.
These cameras are not on the PoE. These are separately powered cameras, which lose their signal when I turn on one of the access points. So the PoE has nothing to do with these cameras. These cameras are just using
wall warts,
5-volt USB wall wart, and they work perfectly well with my router, but when I fire up the access point, it knocks them out for some reason. And I have two of them. I have one of them's a Raspberry Pi, and one is a Weiss Cam. So they're not on the PoE. They're completely
they're just dropping
isolated
off the network.
What about either too many collisions on the network, or they're on a adjacent channel that's being knocked off?
That could be. That's certainly a possibility. I haven't tried
conflicting addresses.
No, not conflicting addresses, conflicting channels where the channels overlap each other, and it'll cause problems. I've had that problem before.
I haven't tried experimenting with channel switching at this point.
Yeah, I've had that problem before, where you turn on one device and it just floods the channel and kicks other devices off. Actually, it was a Wi-Fi camera. I would flip it on. Every time I would flip it on, I would lose my my router. My router would go off. And this camera was only it was not a Wi-Fi camera, but it was transmitting on Wi-Fi frequencies.
Oh,
You think
that's
we can go
great.
back up there, Rochelle? Can you check, please? With the hole there?
So
You got
every
enough
time I
there.
would kick that thing off, I would
Picking up where you think?
kick off the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi would just go away.
Well, this is a problem I just discovered, as I said, in the last 12 hours. So I'm now I've got a ways to go in terms of determining what's the cause.
Stuff to carry in here.
Oh, just leave it in here. I'll get tomorrow.
I know, me too. I want to take my stuff in.
Okay.
Me too. I want my hats.
I think if we are brainstorming this, and we'll figure it out eventually.
We should be down to by like 8 minutes. Where are we, Leroy?
Not
I
yet.
thought once you're under 10 minutes, you got a little notification on the screen.
Yeah, we must. It just popped up. 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It just now popped up.
No.
We are at 10.
Right? No. Right. Aiden, don't get out yet.
Okay.
Let Dad get out first. He's going. Go.
My Sony ebook reader, just because I was curious, That was actually made in 2012. So
So it's only 8 years old.
it's only 8 years old. It's older than I thought it was, honestly, but this thing's
It's interesting. Back around about the time that the first Kindle came out, Borders was also coming out with their, what, I forget what it is, but, or no,
I'm awake now.
the Kindle came out first, and then I think Barnes and Noble brought out their
Yeah.
product. I don't remember what it's called. The Node, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
So
There
anyway,
were-
when
there
I
were
showed
some-
up in the Borders store, which was still in business here in Fremont, or in, yeah, there in Fremont, and I asked one of the salespeople about ebooks. Did they have the Kindle? Did they have? They said, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of those things." I said, "Okay, that's encouraging. You're in a bookstore and you've just now heard of them." So this was a Borders sales associate. So they said, "Oh, I think we have a Sony one back in the stock room someplace." Now they didn't have them sitting out or anything else.
Right.
So they go around and they poke around and say, "Well, we don't have them." And I said, "Well, when are you going to get them?" They said, well, we're not sure they're going to sell." So here we are 10 or 12 years later. And you notice Borders isn't around anymore. And Barnes and Noble is a shadow of their former self, but the ebooks are all over the place.
I remember my first ebook was a Sony, and it was in a nice metal case. I mean, it was nice. It was nice and thick, and but it only had like 1 mega RAM or something. It was an insane, and it took full size SD cards. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, up to 2 gigs, okay. But the reason I bought Sony was because it would do all the formats that were currently available, while the Kindle would only read Kindle specific formats.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I would much rather have something where I'm not tied to one particular place than have something that I'm tied to one particular place. Now, of course, I think all of them will read all the
Yeah,
formats.
all they're totally they're multilingual. There's no problem at all.
But back then, Sony was the only one that was able to read all the formats, and the ebook format, of course, kind of became a default standard. But Sony was able to read that well before anybody else was able to read it.
Well,
So, and
my
then
wife
Sony
has had
just
2
decided that
Kindles now.
they weren't
She's
going to
on
do
the
that
second
because there
one.
was no money in it.
My wife has had 2 Kindles now, and she's on her second one. The first one disappeared in an airport in New Haven. Apparently, she laid it down on the beside her, and somehow or another it developed legs and walked off.
Yeah.
But I've never owned a actual ebook. I just use the ebook apps on either or the Kindle app on either my desktop or my tablet or my phone, and it works perfectly well. And it's free, so I just download the app and stick it in there, and then start loading it up with books.
The
And
nice
the nice
thing,
thing about any of the Kindle books is that you can automatically sync between various machines. So have a Windows machine in my office at school. I have various Linux machines, both here and in California in my office at home. And I've got the on my Android tablet, and I've got them on my Android phone, and I can sync them all up simultaneously. I think they'll let you use them on something like 10 devices, something like that.
This, I was going to say, the nice thing about the ebooks is actually the screen. It's real easy on the eyes. It's not a hard, it doesn't have that weird blue background or blue haze that the screens have. But that's also the drawback to these, because you can't read these at night because there's no backlight to them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the current Kindle has built-in backlighting.
Yeah. But this one here, I believe, was the first Wi-Fi model that Sony came out with, and it would sync. So you installed software on your computer, and over Wi-Fi, it would sync the software on your computer. And if you had 2 of these or 3 of these, it would sync them all up. So they were ahead of their time even back then. They probably were so far ahead that it didn't sink into what people wanted to do, you know. We're so far ahead. You really need this feature. Why do we need that feature?
Yeah. Yeah, you neither are too early nor too late to the marketplace.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about Betamax versus VHS, you probably remember that.
I was a beta.
Beta was a far better picture, but VHS won in the end. So
yeah, well,
we're at 214. I see now.
You realize you're actually talking to somebody that still owns a Laserdisc player. Do you remember the Laserdisc?
Well, I own a very nice vinyl turntable that I thought I was going to have to get rid of. Oh, no. They're coming back. So.
You're, hang on. I got like 1 minute. I can do this in 1 minute. Maybe.
Ho, ho.
Your big 12-inch silver discs.
Were they recorded on both sides?
Yes. Yeah, it was actually it's kind of like an analog format too.
Do you have a player that will play it?
Yep. Yeah.
That's sick.
I kept the player because there's a couple of movies that like the Star Wars series, you know, with all the changes that he did. These are all the originals. These aren't all the crazy changes. You know, Han shot first kind of deal. 33 seconds, guys.
Okay.
So
Bye.
this time we'll
happened
be
to
able
Ray?
to say
Did
bye
he,
to each other.
Let's wait.
What happened to Ray?
He
Ray's-
muted himself. He's eating, I think.
He's waiting to start.
Pictures. He's on the beach. He's showing pictures of the beach.
Sure. I'm still here.
9 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
And bye.
Bye. See you guys
Bye-bye.